Okay, honey, I'm all done.
Mom smiled and handed me the mirror. I took it and grimaced at the person looking back. My face looked like a parade of colors, not sure about which direction they needed to go. At this point, it was like looking at a totally different person. Mom was a top prosthetic makeup artist, but when it came to normal makeup, she was terrible. Thanks, Mom. I shot her a fake smile and grabbed my book for school.
Don't forget, boys only want one thing from you. And being an ugly girl is better than being a beautiful one.
Mom shouted as I walked out of the front door. Hi, my name is Tammy. Don't continue watching this video until you like this video and subscribe to our channel. Oh yeah, also tap that notification bell so you will know when more amazing stories are out. Genevieve, my best friend, giggled at me when I walked up to her at the school gate.
So, your mom is at it again. Why don't you just wash it off and reapply the makeup before leaving school?
Jen looked at me and wiggled her eyebrows playfully. But don't you remember that one time when I did wash it off?
Yeah, and your mom grounded you for a week. The same week we had to go to the Jonas Brothers.
And let's not forget the threat of being homeschooled and never seeing the light of day again if I ever remove this hideous makeup she painted on my face.
Let's meet in the cafeteria for lunch.
Jen smiled. Yes, and we can talk about the concert coming up. We both squealed before saying goodbye and heading to class.
So, what are you wearing to the concert?
Jen asked as we sat down by the table in the cafeteria. I'm not sure. I've been saving my allowance to get a new outfit. Maybe Mom can drop us to the mall this Saturday.
That would be great! I haven't been to the mall in ages. But do you know what I heard?
I rolled my eyes playfully at Jen. She always had the newest gossip on everyone. What did you hear, Jen?
I heard that Nicholas works at a kiosk at the mall duplicating keys. Maybe you can carry some keys to be duplicated.
Jen sipped her drink and looked at me over her straw. Are you crazy? I can't speak to Nicholas looking like a full-blown clown. Had Jen lost her marbles? How was I going to walk up to the cutest guy in school looking like something from a 5-year-old's coloring book? That Saturday at the mall, it was my dumb luck that Mom decided to stay with us while we shopped. I mean, how was I supposed to talk to Nicholas if all she kept preaching to me was, boys are only after one thing? Just then, I heard a notification on my phone. I checked it. It was Jen.
Nicholas's kiosk is right outside the store. I'll keep your mom busy. Go.
I quickly glanced at Jen, who smiled at me before returning her attention to Mom. Did I feel insecure about my makeup? Yes. But at some point, I needed to get over that, right?
Mrs. Adams, what do you think about this top for the concert? You know that you have immaculate taste.
I slipped out of the store and quickly removed one of my keys from its ring as I walked towards Nicholas.
Hey, it's Tammy, right? We're in art class together.
He knows my name. He knows my name. I sang in my head. Hi, yes, I'm Tammy. And you're Nicholas, correct? He smiled and nodded.
What can I do for you today?
I handed him the key. He took it and began to work.
Are you going to the Jonas Brothers concert next Saturday?
Of course. They are my favorite band of all time.
Nice. Maybe I'll see you there.
Before I could respond, I received a notification.
Your mom is asking for you. You need to get back here ASAP.
I've got to go.
But I still have to give you...
Nicholas's reply faded as I ran towards the store. On the night of the concert, Jen met at my place, so Mom could drop us off and pick us up after the concert.
Don't worry.
Jen opened her purse and showed me the makeup palettes once she got up to my room.
Once we get to the concert, we'll take your stuff off in the bathroom and moi shall apply some real makeup. I hope we see Nicholas so he can see you in all your glory. Cute outfit and cute makeup. You'll be on fire, baby!
On the way to the concert, we sang Jonas Brothers songs. When we jumped out of the car, Mom looked at me squarely.
I'll be in the parking lot at 12 a.m. waiting for the both of you. Okay?
Excitedly, Jen and I nodded before we turned away ecstatic for the best night of our lives. We found the bathroom quickly and Jen reapplied my makeup. I was breathless. I looked so much like me.
Are you ready for the Jonas Brothers? Ah!
Jen squealed as she placed the last palette into her purse. Let's go! Jen and I held hands as we walked out of the bathroom. The atmosphere that night was one I'd always remember. The The lights, the screams of the fans, the sheer amazingness of just being able to see the Jonas Brothers perform. Everything was perfect until Jen and I walked out to the parking lot. A few minutes before 12, Jen and I walked to the car park. The concert was still in full swing, but watching part of the concert was better than no concert at all. I wish I could have seen Nicholas.
Girl, did you see how many other guys were drooling all over you?
Suddenly, a van pulled up in front of us. Jen and I stumbled backwards. Abruptly, the door of the van opened and someone grabbed my hand and dragged me inside. The van drove off with my legs still dangling outside. It was a few seconds before my legs were inside the van and the door was closed. I kicked and screamed at the person who grabbed me until a familiar voice arose from the chaos.
Tammy, it's me.
Dad? I looked back at the person who was holding me. So you couldn't send a postcard or a text message like normal fathers? You needed to kidnap me?
I'm sorry, Tammy, but it needed to be this way.
A line of worry was indented on Dad's forehead.
What I'm about to tell you, you can't tell anyone, not even Jen.
I nodded and looked at him with bated breath.
I'm an undercover agent, and I desperately need your help. I heard about this concert, and I know they're your favorite band. I'm just glad I was able to spot you.
That's when I realized. That's why Mom had covered me in ugly makeup. It wasn't to fend off the boys, it was to disguise me. It was about a year ago when she started this weird makeup on me. She was trying to stop Dad from finding me. What do you need me to do? I asked eagerly.
A few years ago, your mom got into some bad company, and she committed a robbery with a man named Greg Taylor. Greg was sent to jail, and your mother escaped and kept the green diamond. Greg knows that your mother has it, and a few days ago, he was released. I need you to get the diamond for me. It's hidden in one of the clay Santa ornaments that you and your mother made a few years ago.
And when I get it, how will I get in contact with you?
Don't worry about that. In a few days, I'll get in contact with you.
Dad dropped me off a few blocks home. I jumped out of the van and he looked at me.
Your mother can't know about this. I'm not sure if she has been in contact with Greg.
I nodded and headed home. As I got closer to my house, I saw the flashing lights of police vehicles. I ran the rest of the way and burst through the front door. Mom! Mom shot up from the sofa she was sitting on and ran towards me. She hugged me tightly.
Are you okay? What happened?
I created a story to feed the police officers and Mom. Everyone seemed to buy into it. The officer said if I remembered anything, that I should give them a call. I nodded. Mom thanked them for everything and they left. I asked Mom about Jen and she said she was safe but afraid. I asked Mom to call her and tell her that I was safe because I was exhausted and wanted to get to bed. The next few days, Mom didn't leave my side. I wasn't allowed to go to school or even have Jen over. How was I supposed to get the diamond if Mom was tracking my movements? I finally caught a break when Mom said she was going to the coffee shop around the corner to meet with a friend quickly. She told me to lock all the doors and windows. As soon as she left, I pulled out the Christmas ornaments and found the clay Santas. I smashed the third Santa and a green diamond skated across the floor. I picked it up and admired it.
Tammy, what's that?
Startled, I dropped the diamond on the floor and quickly picked it up and hid it behind my back. Mom walked towards me.
What are you hiding behind your back?
She took my hand from behind my back and opened it.
Where did you steal that diamond from, Tammy?
I pushed the diamond into my pants pocket. Huh? I looked at Mom confused. If Mom had no idea about the diamond, was Dad lying? I'm not supposed to tell you this, but I told Mom everything that happened. The fake kidnapping, seeing Dad, and what he asked me to do. Without a word, Mom left the room and returned shortly with a wooden box. She placed it on the table and took out old newspaper clippings. All the clippings were about Dad. 10 years ago, he was an infamous burglar until he was captured by the police. He got out of jail about a year ago. I sank into the chair. My head was spinning. I had never been so confused in all my life. Mom apologized for making me wear makeup, but she hoped that I would understand why she did it. I nodded slowly. What are we going to do about the diamond? Should we give it to Dad or sell it and move away? I mean, selling it would mean we no longer have it and we could come out of hiding.
It may not be as simple as that, since Dad is owing a lot of people, and that diamond is his only way out. Either way, we need to get out of town now. If Dad doesn't find us, one of his goons who thinks we have the diamond will.
Mom and I dashed off to our rooms to pack. I quickly packed my suitcases, tracking only the things that I needed. I left my room to see if Mom needed help. Her door was slightly opened. I was about to knock when I realized Mom wasn't who I thought she was.
After 10 years, I finally found where Scott hid the stupid diamond. I'll meet you in about 2 hours.
Mom lied to me? Was she the real burglar? I was just about to sneak away when my phone rang loudly. It was an unknown number. Mom spun around, glared at me, and I ran back towards my room and locked the door and barricaded it quickly. Hello? I panted.
Hey, Tammy, it's Dad.
Dad, I'm so sorry. Mom knows, and she's trying to get to me. I'm trapped inside my room. The phone went dead. Mom unlocked my door, and she pushed against it. If I didn't do something quick, I would be at Mom's mercy. My only way out was to climb the tree that was outside my window. I quickly pushed my phone in my pocket, opened my window, and climbed out to the tree. As I shimmied down the tree, I heard a deafening crack below my feet before I crashed to the ground. Ouch! I cried as I rubbed my ankle. I tried to stand, but I couldn't put any weight on my ankle. Fear gripped me when I heard Mom march out of the house. She grabbed me by my hands and pulled me back into the house. She tied me to one of the kitchen chairs before making a phone call telling the person that plans changed and they needed to meet her at home. Now.
After everything I did for you, this is how you do me? I taught your father everything, but he became greedy. He hid one of the diamonds. So I had to do something. I set up his last heist so he would be caught. Thanks to you, I now have that diamond.
Now I realized that both my parents were burglars. I'm your daughter. How can you treat me like this? Mom cackled and leaned into the chair, our faces almost touching.
Oh, I'm not your mother. I'm your father's sister. Your dad stole you off the road from some homeless woman. We need to convey the perfect family, and that could only happen with an innocent child involved.
I felt like my brain was splitting in two. I had learned so much in so little time. Just then, someone broke down the kitchen door and entered. It was Dad and the police. I sighed, relieved. This day was finally over. Mom was quickly subdued and carried out by the officers. Dad untied me and took me to the hospital. On the way to Dad's, I told Dad everything that Mom said except the part about him stealing me from the homeless woman. I mean, would you tell your dad that you found out what he did? I mean, he's the only dad that I know, and this life was better than living on the street. He admitted that everything was true. He wanted to give up the life of crime. But he knew with his sister still on the run, he would never be able to have the life that he wanted. He said he wanted a new start, and even though he couldn't give me back the 10 years he missed from my life, he was willing to try and make up for it. I pulled out the diamond from my pocket and handed it to Dad. He hugged me and promised that things would be different from now on. Dad helped me to my room and told me that if I needed anything, to just let him know. I smiled and he closed the door behind him. Okay, confession time. I actually found 2 diamonds. Somebody forgot how many diamonds they hid. I gave one to Dad. I still have the other one. Would you keep the other diamond or give that up as well? Leave your comments below.
I was sitting on the bench in the park, enjoying the cool night breeze with my date for the evening.
Come here. It's getting a bit chilly.
He put his arm around me and I leant my head against his shoulder. He looked into my eyes and my heart started beating faster. I knew he was about to kiss me. But as he leant towards me, the alarm on my phone suddenly started beeping. It was midnight. I'm sorry, I don't want to go out with you anymore. We're over. If you think that is weird, just wait till you see what happens later in the story. It was the last day of the summer holidays and my friends and I were determined to make the most of it. We had arranged to spend the day at the lake in our town. It was our favorite place to hang out in the summer. I was watching my friends splashing about in the water. It looked so cool and inviting, so I decided to go for a swim. I dove into the water. It was icy cold and almost took my breath away. I started swimming towards my friends when suddenly I felt a cramping in my leg. The pain was getting worse and worse and I was struggling to swim. Suddenly, I went under the water and blacked out. As I began to sink lower and lower, I suddenly saw a vision before me. It was a fortune teller.
You have to break up with your boyfriend. If you don't, you will die.
What is she talking about?
You have a curse on you. If you don't have a boyfriend every 24 hours, you will die. This near drowning is a warning of that.
Suddenly, I felt arms around my body, dragging me up to the surface. I felt myself being pulled onto the grass at the side of the lake. My chest was being pumped and somebody was blowing air into my mouth. I started sputtering and coughing. When I opened my eyes, I saw that it was my boyfriend Trevor that saved my life. All of my friends were gathered around me, concerned look on their faces.
Katie, are you okay? We thought you were going to die.
I thought about the fortune teller's words. She was right. I had almost drowned. Even though I loved Trevor so much, I knew that I couldn't stay with him. If I did, then I would die. So instead of thanking him for saving my life, I stood up and told him right in front of everyone, "We're over, Trevor. I don't want to see you anymore." His face fell in shock.
What? But why? What did I do?
My heart almost broke, and I saw how distraught he was, but I couldn't risk it. I had to break up with him if I wanted to stay alive. It is what it is. You'll just have to deal with it. Everyone around me gasped. I could tell that they were shocked at the way I was treating Trevor, but I just ignored them. I guess I'll see you around. I grabbed my bag and left. I didn't have to look back to know that they were all standing, watching me walk away. When I got to school the next day, everyone wanted to know what had happened, including Trevor.
I just don't understand, Katie. We were so happy. Why would you want to throw all that away?
Trevor's right. You guys were great together. What happened?
I could hardly tell them about my vision. Could I? I mean, they would probably just laugh it off and tell me not to be silly. But I couldn't risk it. So instead, I made up some excuse. Look, Trevor, just accept it. I hate you, okay?
Katie, how can you be so rude? Trevor saved your life and this is how you treat him?
I could see by the looks on my friends' faces that they thought I was being mean and rude. But what choice did I have? Trevor just looked hurt and confused. It was difficult standing there lying to Trevor and my friends. Of course I didn't hate him. I loved him with all of my heart. I was terrified of the curse. I didn't want to die, so I ignored the pain in my heart and went to look for a guy to date. You remember, the fortune teller told me that I must have a new boyfriend every 24 hours. Well, I didn't have much time. I needed to find my boyfriend for that day. When I got to my locker, I saw a guy standing on his own. He looked cute, so I went over and smiled at him. "Hi there, I'm Katie." He smiled back at me.
Hi, Katie. I'm Mike.
Look, you might think that this is a bit forward of me, but, well, would you like to go out with me today?
Sure, why not?
It had never been difficult for me to get a boyfriend. In fact, my problem had always been trying to fend off guys' attention. You see, I had always been known as the hottest girl in the school. Everyone wanted to date me, but I only had eyes for Trevor. He was my one true love. But I couldn't think about it. I had to date other people if I wanted to stay alive. At lunchtime, Mike and I walked into the canteen together, hand in hand. I could see the hurt look on Trevor's face when he caught sight of us. Even though I felt terrible for causing him so much pain, I just walked past him, pretending I didn't care. Mike wasn't really my kind of guy. I mean, he was nice enough, but nowhere near as special as Trevor. So when it came to the end of the evening, it wasn't difficult for me to break up with him. Sorry, Mike, no hard feelings, yeah? It's just that I don't think we're right for each other.
Sure, no problem.
The next day, I did the same thing again. I found some random guy and asked him to be my boyfriend. And at the end of the day, I finished with him. Day after day, I did the same thing. Every 24 hours, I had a new boyfriend. It wasn't the way I wanted to live my life, but there was nothing else I could do. But eventually, it became too tiring. It was difficult meeting new guys every day, and it wasn't long before I had dated every guy in the school. Now what am I going to do? I've dated everyone. There's no one left to ask out. I started to panic. If I don't find someone to date, I'm going to die. The thought did cross my mind that I should date one of the teachers, but I quickly dismissed it. What about if I dated a girl? But no, the fortune teller specifically said I must have a new boyfriend every 24 hours. What am I gonna do? I decided that I would go into town and look for a boyfriend there. It wasn't as easy as dating a boy at school. The guys in town were older and I wasn't confident that they would want to date me. But I had to try. When I got to the town car park, I saw a boy sitting on a motorbike. He looked kinda cute, and as I walked towards him, he gave me a smile.
Hello, where are you going, pretty lady?
Well, that sounds promising. He thinks I'm pretty. Oh, just shopping, you know. How about you?
Oh, I'm just on my way home.
I knew that I had to grab the opportunity whilst I could. So I just asked him straight out, "Would you like to go to the park with me? I mean, like, as my boyfriend." I waited for a moment, my heart beating nervously.
Yeah, okay, sounds good.
Phew. I breathed a sigh of relief. I'd done it. I had my new boyfriend for the day. I'm Katie, by the way.
Brian!
Shall we go then, Brian? The two of us walked off to the park together, and he seemed like a nice enough guy. Nothing like my Trevor, of course. Stop it. You have to forget about Trevor. We sat down on the bench and enjoyed the cool night breeze. He put his arm around me, and I leant my head against his shoulder. He looked into my eyes, and my heart started beating faster. I knew he was about to kiss me. But as he leant towards me, the alarm on my phone suddenly started beeping. It was midnight. "I'm sorry, I don't want to go out with you anymore. We're over." As I ran out of the park, I could hear his angry voice yelling at me from behind.
Hey, that's not cool! Who do you think you are?
By the next morning, I had totally forgotten about Brian. He meant nothing to me. He was just one out of hundreds of guys. But it seemed that Brian hadn't forgotten about me, because when I arrived at school, he was waiting outside the school gates for me. "What are you doing here?" I could see by his face that he wasn't very happy with me.
No one breaks up with me! You can't treat me like that!
"Look, I'm sorry, okay?"
No, it's not okay!
He started screaming and shouting at me.
Do you really think I'm going to let you get away with treating me badly? Hey man, leave her alone.
I turned and I saw Trevor standing behind me.
What's it got to do with you? It's got everything to do with me. I'm Katie's friend. I don't care who you are. Stay out of my business. And what if I don't?
Brian suddenly lost his temper. He lunged at Trevor and started punching him and kicking him. "Stop! Stop it!" But they didn't stop. They were both throwing punches left, right, and center. I was so scared. I didn't want Trevor to get hurt, but it didn't matter what I said. They just kept on fighting.
Hey, break it up, you two.
I was so relieved to see two teachers coming running towards us. One of them grabbed hold of Brian, and the other got hold of Trevor.
Come on, that's enough now.
I don't know who you are, but you need to get out of here. Trevor, you go into school, come to my room straight after school for an hour's detention.
I didn't see Trevor for the rest of the day, so I didn't get a chance to thank him for coming to my rescue. So when the bell went to say it was the end of the school day, instead of going straight home, I decided I would wait around until Trevor had finished his detention. I stood outside the school gates for what seemed like an eternity, and eventually I saw Trevor coming out of the school building. "Trevor!" He smiled at me.
Hi, Katie.
If you hadn't come along and rescued me, I don't know what he might have done. I don't know how I can thank you enough.
Well, there is one way you could thank me.
Anything, just tell me what it is.
You could give me an honest answer to my question.
What question?
Why did you break up with me?
I took a sharp breath. What should I do? Should I tell him about my vision? What if he just laughs it off? I decided that I owed him an explanation. He had done so much for me, the least I could do was tell him the truth. Do you remember the day at the lake, when I almost drowned?
How could I forget? It was the day you finished with me.
Well, when I went underwater, I had a kind of vision.
Go on.
I saw a fortune teller and she told me that I had to break up with you.
But why would she say that? And more to the point, why would you do what she said?
Because she told me that I had to have a new boyfriend every 24 hours or I would die. She said that the near drowning was a warning of what was to come. I expected Trevor to burst out laughing, but he didn't. Do you think I'm stupid?
No, of course I don't. I totally understand why you did what you did. Anyway, as long as you were safe, that's all that matters. I'll see you at school tomorrow.
I watched as Trevor walked off down the street. As he disappeared out of sight, I suddenly realized what I had to do. I couldn't live my life the way some fortune teller told me to. I knew that I had to make my own destiny. I started running down the street after Trevor. Trevor, wait, wait. When I eventually caught up to Trevor, I was out of breath. I'm
Stop. Take a breath.
I'm sorry. I should have never broken up with you. I love you.
What are you saying?
I'm saying that I want you back. I want you to give me a second chance. I waited for him to answer. My stomach was in knots and my heart was beating madly.
Of course I will. I never stopped loving you.
That was 10 years ago. Trevor and I are now married and we have 2 beautiful kids. Obviously, nothing bad happened to me. I learned not to take things too seriously and not to get too stuck in my own head.
Are you sure this is the item you want me to hide, Shelly?
Gideon, my twin brother, looked at me with a raised eyebrow. Yeah, sure. Why not? I handed over the old tattered jewelry box that Grandma left for me in her will. We couldn't get the box open because there wasn't a key, so why not? Gideon handed me his Xbox.
Okay, so, you know the rules. The person who figures out the riddle and gets back their item first will forever be dubbed the riddle champion. Remember, you're only allowed to hide the items in the amusement park, home, or at school.
Gideon and I shook on it. We went our separate ways, prepared our riddles, and hid the items. When Grandma left me this box, she told me that I should keep the box safe until the time was right. Little did I know that the game with Gideon was about to ruin my life. Hey, my name is Shelly. If you want to find out how this game ruined my life, watch the rest of this video. I don't want you to make the same mistake I did. Gideon and I have a great bond, but in spite of this, we have always been competitive with each other, pushing each other and ourselves to be the best at what we do. The next day, Gideon and I handed each other a piece of paper enclosed with the riddle. We eyed each other, shook hands to seal the bet, and we headed to our rooms. I opened the piece of paper and on it was written, "Rip me off quick so I no longer hide. Once that is done, you'll see what's concealed inside." It has to be a package, I shouted as I ran down to my parents' office. Yesterday, they received a few packages. It must be one of those, I thought. I burst into the office and began the search for the packages. After searching for a few minutes, the only package I saw was in the cupboard, all the way at the top. I dragged Dad's chair from behind his desk and placed it in front of the cupboard. I tiptoed to reach the package. Almost got it. I stretched my fingers as far as they could go. My fingertips touched the package. I just needed to stretch a bit more. Suddenly, the office door opened and Dad's voice startled me.
Shelly, Mom said dinner is ready.
The chair wobbled below me and I crashed to the floor. Ouch. I rubbed my shoulder as I struggled to a sitting position. Dad rushed over to help.
Shelly, what in the world were you doing?
I was trying to get that package up there. I nodded towards the package.
Why? That's your mother's birthday gift. Why do you want that?
Oh, Dad helped me to my feet.
Are you and Gideon up to something?
Dad raised an inquisitive eyebrow. Well, maybe. I rolled my shoulders. Dad shook his head.
We'll talk about it later. Let's go to dinner before Mom punishes both of us for being late.
That night before going to bed, Gideon knocked on my door.
How's your shoulder?
He asked as he walked in. How did you know about that?
I sensed it. It's a twin thing.
He looked at me seriously before his mouth turned into a smile.
No, Dad told me about it.
I tossed a pillow at Gideon. It's a bit sore, but I'll be okay. Are you any closer to figuring out your riddle?
Almost.
He grinned.
I'll find my Xbox before you find Grandma's jewelry box.
You wish. Gideon laughed and exited my room. I was going to beat Gideon and become the riddle champion no matter what. 3 days passed and my hopes on becoming the riddle champion shattered as Gideon walked into my room with his Xbox.
Hey, you want to play a game?
I rolled my eyes.
You know what this means, right? I am the riddle champion.
Gideon cupped his hands by his mouth and made cheering noises as he ran up and down my room. I don't know what's worse, you winning or me having to listen to you gloat. Gideon playfully put me in a headlock and messed up my hair. I pushed him off and he landed on my bed. Out of breath, he asked,
Do you want me to tell you where the jewelry box is?
No, I'll find it by myself, thank you very much.
You know I won, right?
I will not be known for not being able to figure out one of your silly little riddles.
Okay, suit yourself.
Gideon picked up his Xbox and headed to the door. He looked over his shoulder and taunted me.
If you need me, I'll be in the living room playing with this bad boy.
I groaned and dove on my bed, disappointed. Over the next 2 weeks, I was obsessed with any package that came to the house. Anything that held the shape of my jewelry box was torn open. This often led me to getting stern stares from my parents. However, I didn't mind. I needed to figure out where Gideon placed my jewelry box. I even searched the amusement park. The only place I did not search was school. That was next on my list. Over the next few days, my eyes searched for clues in anything that was wrapped like a package. I thought maybe Mr. Gilks, the principal's office, was worth searching. When Mrs. Goddard told me that Mr. Gilks did not come in that day, I took the opportunity to have a look around. I snuck into his office and kept low as I began my search. In one corner of the office on a wooden table were a few brown paper packages. As I began to remove the paper, someone cleared their throat behind me, and I froze.
Shelly Watson, do I dare ask what you're doing?
I slowly turned around and smiled at Mr. Gilks weakly. Good morning, sir. I didn't know you were coming to school today. I I stood up slowly.
I'm sorry to disappoint you. Meet me in detention at 3 p.m. room 301. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have work to do.
With my head down, I quickly exited Mr. Gilk's office. After school, I met Mr. Gilk's in detention. I was finally released at 5 p.m. I hurried home so I wouldn't have to explain to Mom why I was late for dinner at 6 p.m.
Where have you been?
Gideon whispered to me as soon as I walked through the door. I grabbed his hand and dragged him to my room. I closed the door before I spoke. I was in detention.
What? Why?
Gideon searched my eyes for answers. Well, I rubbed the back of my neck. I was searching for clues from your riddle. Gideon hollered and held his stomach.
I can't believe you thought I would hide the jewelry box in Mr. Gilk's office. We're almost out of high school. A recommendation from Mr. Gilk's to colleges is needed. I'm not about to mess that up by hiding the box there.
Gideon pressed his hands lovingly on my shoulders as he looked into my eyes.
Come on, Shelley. Let me tell you where the box is. I promise not to hold it against you.
I shook my head profusely. I'll figure it out. That night after dinner, I plastered sticky notes on my bedroom wall with all the places I searched and places that I planned on searching in the future. Mom, Dad, and even Gideon became worried about me as all I did in my spare time was ponder over the riddle. I lost weight, and nothing else seemed to matter, not even the acceptance letter from NIB College where Gideon and I applied. I groaned inwardly when Mom and Dad decided to take us to dinner the following night. I needed to figure out this riddle. I didn't have time to go to dinner. Every afternoon, Gideon and I met outside the school gates and headed home together.
Hey!
Gideon said as he approached me.
Coach said I have to stay back and practice for a few hours for the big game this weekend. Tell Mom not to worry and I'll be home in time to go for dinner.
He was about to walk away when he looked at me.
Your jewelry box is in the...
I placed my hand over my ears and sang loudly until Gideon's lips no longer moved. I snapped. Do you think I'm stupid? Do you think I can't figure out your silly little riddle? I told you I wanted to figure it out on my own, and I will. I stormed off. As I walked home, I realized that I had overreacted, and maybe I should go back and apologize to Gideon. I shrugged it off. I'll talk with him later as soon as he gets home. Little did I know that I would regret that decision for the rest of my life. My parents and I sat around, already dressed for dinner, waiting for Gideon to come home. At 6 p.m., he called from Coach Raymond's phone and said practice ran late and he would be home in 30 minutes. That was an hour ago. Suddenly, I screamed out and hunched over in pain.
Shelly,
Mom rushed over to me.
what's wrong?
I moaned. I'm not sure. I don't feel so good. My head is pounding. Dad picked me up and carried me to my bedroom and placed me on the bed.
I'll get you something for the headache.
I nodded as Dad pulled the covers over me before he exited my room. I must have drifted off to sleep since I jumped up to a blood-curdling scream. It took me a while to realize that the scream came from my mother. I dashed to the living room where Dad was comforting Mom, who clutched the phone in her hands. Dad, what's going on? Mom looked at me.
It's Gideon. He's been in an accident.
I sank to the floor. A horrified look on my face, but no sound came out. Dad helped Mom and I to the car and he drove us to the hospital. When we got there, Dr. Hollis told us that Gideon received severe lacerations to his head and he was in a coma. While Mom and Dad spoke to Dr. Gideon, I entered Gideon's room. He looked pale and deathly still. His head was wrapped with bandages and a long tube ran from his arm to a machine next to the bed. I sat on the chair next to the bed and held his hand. I fought through the tears as I apologized to Gideon about what had happened earlier. Gideon was always there. What was I supposed to do now without my best friend? How was I supposed to go off to college without him? Over the next few weeks, things changed drastically in our household. Where there was once laughter and joy, now there was uncertainty and silence. Many nights I sat in bed, wishing it were me in the hospital and not Gideon. I completely forgot about the riddle and spent my afternoons at Gideon's bedside. One night, Mom got a call from the hospital. Gideon was awake. Dad drove us to the hospital. As soon as Dad pulled into the parking lot of the hospital, I hopped out of the car and ran to Gideon's room, not caring who I knocked over on the way there. Gideon! I threw my arms around him as soon as I entered his room. My tears fell against his shoulders. He held me tightly.
I'm okay, Shelley.
The car accident changed Gideon. The last year of his life was completely wiped from his memory, which meant that even if he wanted to tell me where the jewelry box was, the memory of him hiding it was lost. Change was hard, but it was even harder seeing my outgoing brother turn into a shell of himself. He was more reserved and competing no longer satisfied him. Without Gideon, Competing was no longer fun for me either, and we both dropped out of all the sporting clubs in which we excelled. That year, we didn't even celebrate Christmas. Mom and Dad thought it was in Gideon's best interest if he went to a college closer to home. While NIB was my college of choice, I couldn't see myself going to school without Gideon, so I told my parents that I planned to go to whichever college they placed Gideon. Our 18th birthday was soon upon us. Gideon and I always thought about all the things we would do once we reached 18. However, on this day we had a quiet lunch at home before Mom and Dad drove us to Mrs. Pollard's office, the family lawyer.
I'm so glad you could make it.
Mrs. Pollard nodded to Gideon and I as we sat in the chairs opposite her desk. She continued,
According to your grandma's will, she needed to know that both of you were responsible and can be trusted before a lot was given to you.
Gideon and I shared a look.
Do you have the jewelry box your grandma left you?
I shook my head. Mrs. Pollard sighed as she held a key in her hand.
Without the box, I'm not allowed to hand over the inheritance that your grandma left you. Within the jewelry box is a letter and the key for a safe where your inheritance is kept.
As we drove home from Mrs. Pollard's, the silence in the car was intense. I squeezed Gideon's hand. We are fine without Grandma's inheritance. Don't worry about it. Soon another Christmas rolled around, and this year we decided to go all out. It was Christmas Eve when Mom ran out of wrapping paper.
There should be a box of wrapping paper in the basement. Can you get it for me, Shelley?
I nodded and quickly found the cardboard box marked wrapping paper in the basement. I lifted the box from the shelf. It felt a bit heavy for just paper. I shook the box. There was something in there. My breath froze in my throat as I opened the cardboard box slowly. There it was. Grandma's jewelry box. Gideon! Gideon! I grabbed the box and ran up to his room.
What's the matter, Shelley? Is something wrong?
I found it! I found Grandma's jewelry box! I jumped gleefully. That afternoon, Mom called Mrs. Pollard, who was kind enough to come over to the house. We unlocked the box and followed Grandma's instructions to the safety box and the inheritance. Grandma left Gideon and I her horse farm in Abadi, where Mom grew up, and $50,000 each. The letter stated that as soon as Gideon and I got a degree, we could claim for the other $100,000. Gideon and I decided to do counseling degrees and use horse therapy as a method of therapy for emotional, physical, and mental conditions. I think Grandma would be proud, don't you? You?